Good evening, everyone. We will start momentarily. We've got a few people that are still joining us. We'll give it about 2 more minutes. All right, everyone, it is 6:03, and we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's Good Neighbor Program community meeting. Tonight, our speaker will be Marissa Sanchez, Assistant Director with Department of Aviation. What I want to do first, though, is share some information with those of us that may be joining us for the first time. We do have an agenda, which will give you an overview of the Good Neighbor program. We will provide updates on Love Field. We'll also give you some quick updates from our environmental division, along with our community engagement updates. The Good Neighbor program is a way for Department of Aviation and Dallas Love Field to connect with the community on future ideas and our planning and giving us some input on planning. We created it to be a livable, walkable, and interconnected opportunity with our neighborhoods in the community, and it operates in and around the airport with the mission to do all that we can in all the ways that we can. Our goals are to be are off airport urban design, provide landscaping and beautification, parks, trails, and recreational activities, along with signage, traffic improvements, and pedestrian improvements. You'll also see to the left that our director has provided us a marching order type goal, and it is to be a community that happens to be located around an airport. The Good Neighbor program does have target areas, as you can see. We are bordered by Shorecrest Drive, Lemon Avenue, Mockingbird Lane, and then Denton Drive. The airport itself is located at Herb Kelleher Way. And with that, again, let me introduce our Infrastructure and Development Assistant Director, Marissa Sanchez. Marissa.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be with you tonight. I'm going to provide some updates on some of our infrastructure and development projects. We will be starting with the Entry Road Enhancement Project. This is one that is most noticeable as the work has been ongoing for quite some time. We actually started it back last year, and it's going to include, as many people have already seen, the installed art that's been placed at the entry of the airport, along with enhancements to our sidewalks and lighting. Sorry. So the Lovebird was actually installed back in October, and I know that many people have already been able to come out and see that. So we're very excited to see that as part of our larger art program, and it'll be highlighted in our art program as well as the other sculptures that we have throughout the airport. And we've actually started installing the new street lights that are depicted in this graphic with the red beacons at the top that you can see here. So as you drive in on Herb Kelleher Way, you can now see those as well. Next slide. So in this slide, you can see some photos of some of the completed work. This includes the DART bus stops with the installed pavers. And this is, again, a photo of the art that was placed at the entry of the airport. Next slide, Ross. Okay, so our next project is the Lemon Avenue Streetscape Enhancement Project. This is one that's been in design. We're actually working with the FAA to sort out some of the details regarding the proposed design. It is currently at 90%, and we expect to have it completed within the next couple of months. This project, sorry about that, is going to include different enhancements for the sidewalk and bicycle paths. It's going to be a mixed-use trail. It'll also have additional landscaping and lighting improvements. And then we'll also have a pocket park at Midway Manor with gateway features. Our goal with this project is also to improve and enhance safety in the area with the additional lighting. Okay, so our ongoing project, the runway reconstruction, which is located on the Denton side of the airport, started in 2021 as well. It was originally expected to take 10 months. So we've experienced several delays in this, as have other construction projects throughout the industry. We are now anticipating the runway to be reopened in late June. The general contractor is still experiencing some supply chain issues with labor shortages and getting equipment and material in, but we're working through that with them. The issues that have been felt on this project have also been felt throughout the North Texas area and actually in other areas as well, as the shortages can impact the supply and the demand. So we're working through those issues. The overall completion of the runway is expected to be done by the end of October. Next slide. So the aircraft operations shifted all operations to the Lemon side, the east side of the airport. Once this runway is back in place, they will be returning back to the Denton side of the airport as well. The overall project is about 56% complete. And again, the runway is about 71% complete. So in March, we were able to open taxiway Tango 5 and Charlie 7. Next slide. These are a couple of photos of the reconstruction project. On the left side, you see a view that's closer to Bachman Lake of the runway. And on the right side, the view is actually a little more zoomed in and focusing more on the Mockingbird side. You can see excuse me, you can see the progress being made on this project. So we're very excited about that. Next slide. So in these photos, you can see the new tax. Oh, can we go back one, Ross? Sorry about that. So in these photos, you can see the new taxiways that opened. They're now being used for both general aviation traffic as well as commercial use. And they are currently allowing aircraft to access the 13 left, 31 right runway, but in the future, they'll also be able to access 13 right, 31 left, which is the Denton side. Next slide. This is a depiction of the progress being made on the runway. The area in green has already had the traffic switch completed, and so they're currently being used. The area in pink is what's still closed for construction. Next slide. And these are the final photos of the runway reconstruction. On this project, we're actually applying it in 2 layers. So we pave with 306 concrete, and then we reinforce it with the 501 pavement. We are 90% done with 306 on the total project, and we're working our way through 501. Next slide. So Crossfields will be our next airside project that'll be starting right after the runway project. This is going to be, this is going to be a project that's going to allow us to connect our taxiways, and it's also going to provide additional remain overnight areas as well as additional de-icing. So the design has already been completed. The bids were opened for construction in March, and they're currently being reviewed. We expect construction to start in August, and this project will not impact runway operations. Next slide. So in these figures, you can see the design of the proposed new Crossfield taxiways. They're going to allow for easier taxiing of aircraft, and they'll provide the new de-icing system. And you can see on the left side that proposed new layout versus the right side of the existing. Okay, next slide, please. One of our other projects that we are currently working on is the alternate entry. And this is one that has been actually in the making for a couple of years. The alternate entry is a result of the 2018 master plan, where it was actually reviewed and found that there were several areas that could be considered an issue of only having one entry. So part of that is that if there are any incidents on Herb Kelleher Way, whether they be traffic incidents, safety incidents, those incidents could produce a backup or impact availability for first responders to access the airport. Additionally, it could be, it could burden passengers if we had to shut down Herb Kelleher for any kind of a reason. So the alternate entry was started to evaluate those issues and then determine what are the alternatives. Next slide. So originally, when this project was started, they reviewed the options on the south end of the airport, and they included 5 options, which you see depicted here. Those options were not able to address the level of service issues with the increased traffic after the repeal of the right amendment. Next slide. You can go to the next slide. So those 5 alternatives were expanded to an additional 6, which here you can see the layout of those different alternatives and the areas that they were able to address or not address. From this, you can see that 5 of them were shortlisted. This chart shows the availability for the north entry alternatives being able to address the majority of those issues. Next slide. So in 2020, at the city's request, we did work with North Central Texas COG and requested a study, which they have undertaken. We are currently still waiting for the results of their study, but you can access the preliminary findings on COG's website. Next slide. So the next steps will be once COG actually presents their findings and their recommendations to council, the Department of Aviation will then come in and present our alternatives as well. And then we will ask council to provide direction on the next steps. Next slide. And I will turn it back to Roz and our other partners to provide the environmental updates.
All right. What I would ask while we are moving forward with our environmental portion of tonight's presentation, I would ask that you submit any questions you have in our chat. We will respond to those at the end of the presentation, but we want to finish up everything for your convenience so that way you know what we need to share. And with that being said, our environmental team will give you a quick update on some of the work that they have been doing. Isaac.
Thank you, Rosalind. My name is Isaac Ellison. I am the environmental supervisor in our environmental division. Like Rosalind said, just going to be giving some updates here on our voluntary noise program. Just some information here for the public. Next slide, please, Rosalind. Thank you. So just here, just a quick image. This is our noise lab, one of our many features that we have a part of our voluntary noise program. This website here allows the residents, public in the area to attain a lot of noise information, such as runway closures, complaints. They're able to submit complaints, and they're also able to access one of our other features through this website. It's Flight Tracker. And Flight Tracker is able to track any live flights in the DFW Metroplex, not only Love Field, but Redbird, Dallas Executive, and also DFW Airport as well. And on that website, you're able to click on flights, get information from those flights, and then you can submit complaints directly with those flights as well. Also on this website here, Noise Lab, we have a lot of archive information, such as our past Love Field Environmental Committee meeting presentations, which are centered strictly around environmental updates, noise, things like that. And then we also have our monthly newsletters, which if anybody is interested in being part of and receiving, I have our email here on the bottom, avinoise@dallascityhall.com. And just the last thing that we're also able to get on here is you're able to see the runways that are in use at the moment. So if you're experiencing any noise or anything like that, you're able to see the runway in use. And that's all I have. Thank you, Rosalind.
Isaac, thank you very much. All right. Couple of things that we have been busy in our community engagement division. We continue to celebrate our career days that we are working in partnership with Dallas Independent School District. We will finish out the year with multiple career days. If you know of a school that is interested in hearing some of the wonderful activities that we can share, send them our way. And with that, I will also share with you a great partnership that we kicked off during the last quarter, and that is with Dallas Children's Advocacy Center. I don't know if anyone was able to join us or to hear the announcements of the program that they had on earlier this month, I'm sorry, on April 8th. It was called Save Jane, where we did an anonymous announcement of over 24,000 children in a 24-hour period. Dallas Love Field was one of the 8 locations where those names were shared throughout the community. And again, I will share the details of how you can contact us. As you can see, we have a hotline at 214-670-LOVE. Our email address, lovefieldgnp@dallascityhall.com. And then our program website at dallaslovefield.com/goodneighbor. Please let us know anything that you would like to share. We are here to provide services since we are a public entity. We believe in being a good neighbor to our surrounding community. We're making every effort that we can to make sure that anything that you would like to see with the community connections. And again, our goal is to be a good neighbor. We are going to move forward with our question segment of tonight's program. The person that will be facilitating those questions is Rachel Simpson. She is a part of our community engagement team here for the Department of Aviation. Good evening, Rachel.
Marissa, we had 6 questions to come through the chat. I will start with question number 1. What plans are forthcoming for pedestrian safety and cyclist safety along Denton Drive?
Yeah, Rosalind, this is Oro Majumdar. If I can answer that question. We are looking at bicycle and pedestrian safety all around the airport with our Luffy Loop Trail program. So what you see, the first phases of it is the entry road enhancements where you see sidewalk improvements, landscaping, street lights. The next phase will be the Lemon Avenue project, where we have the room to put in a bicycle pedestrian trail, and then of course street lights and intersection improvements for pedestrian safety. We plan to continue that around the airport on Shorecrest Drive and Denton Drive. Now on Shorecrest and Denton, there is a county city project, a future project that we should start design soon on Shorecrest to add bike lanes and sidewalks and widen Shorecrest. That project, once that starts, we have kind of put our plans on hold till that project starts design, so we can coordinate with them with our efforts. And last but not the least, with the Denton Avenue, once Shorecrest done, we'll take a look at Denton Avenue and see what we can do in terms of improving pedestrian and bicycle safety there.
Thank you, Oro. Second question is, with the new taxiway, how many new gates will be added to the terminal so we can have more flights?
So gates cannot be added to the terminal. The taxiways don't impact the terminal at all.
Thank you. How is Love Field working with off-site properties to provide off-site parking in businesses or buses so that traffic can be reduced going into Love Field?
Can you repeat that question, Rachel?
Yes, ma'am. How is Love Field working with off-site properties to provide off-site parking and buses so that traffic can be reduced going into Love Field?
Marissa, you want me to try and answer this?
Sure, go ahead, Olive.
Uh, Again, Love Field is, through various efforts. I mean, if you look at our Lemon Avenue projects where we are creating alternate transportation modes and encouraging people to walk or bike. We also have a project, a pilot project with DART to have a electric bus that will service Love Field. Apart from that, we are actively looking at not only quality of life improvements and pedestrian and bicycle safety on the surrounding roads, but to increase air quality, decrease the number of vehicle miles traveled, decrease the emission of gases, and basically increase the efficiency of the roads to address congestion and reduce accidents. So our alternate entry is one of those projects that will actually reduce the number of miles people have to travel from the north and east to get to the airport. Also, it will reduce, it will actually enhance air quality by not only reducing the number of miles, but also emissions. And when we take all that traffic that was actually crossing all the way from north to the south and then coming into Love Field, we will decrease congestion on a lot of the neighborhood streets. So those efforts are always on, and then we have this forum here where we will, we talk to all the neighbors and get their feedback on what else they would like us to do. I'd also like to mention the NCT COG Bachman Area Planning Study that is taking a comprehensive look at all the transportation elements as well as quality of life improvement elements in this area. And we're eagerly waiting for their study to be finalized and presented so we can see what other projects they've identified for future consideration.
Thanks, Aro. The next question has two parts. First part is, what is the expected time frame to send alternate entry to City Council?
The alternate entry analysis that Department of Aviation has done has been presented to you. So we have a short list and we're waiting for Council's direction, but we're also waiting for COG to finish their study. So we can coordinate our what we take to the council and our responses.
Thank you. And the second part is, when will there be public hearings on the issue?
On the alternate entry. So we've had actually last year we did last summer we held 4 public meetings virtually exclusively on the alternate entry. And then for the last 2 years, we have discussed the alternate entry project at every Good Neighbor Program meeting. In addition to that, when we go to council or we go to the transportation committee of the council, those are open meetings and anybody can participate in those. We've also had online surveys for the alternate entry as well as through the COG study, seeking input from residents and stakeholders on all these projects. So we have had an extensive public feedback process and public relations exercise on this to get feedback from the public and the stakeholders, and that'll continue in the future.
Thank you so much. Marissa, I believe you touched on this already. but there was someone wanting to know, why can't there be any more gates out of Love Field? 20 seems too little.
So there is no room for expansion. We're a landlocked airport. And then in addition to that, we have the the 20 max is the 5-party agreement. So that's all we can get. From an operations standpoint, the airport would not be able to add additional gates.
Thank you. Another question. How much is construction cost and how is it being funded?
Which construction?
Didn't specify. I would imagine the runway.
I could take a shot at this. We have different funding sources for our various projects. A lot of the projects that we do on the runway side, runways, taxiways, are a part of it is funded through federal grants. For example, we got several $1 million grants for the runway and the crossfield taxiway projects. We also have what's called the PFCs, or the passenger facility charge. So every time you board a plane through Love Field, the airlines collect a fee that they share with us for improvements to the airport. So most of our projects are funded either through our own revenues that we have from concessions, parking, or the PFCs, or the federal grants and other grants. We do not spend taxpayer money on any of our projects at the airport.
Okay, thank you. What plans are there to connect Love Field by bikeway to Inwood Station and the Trinity Strand Trail?
So you see our efforts to have a bike lane, bike path constructed on Lemon Avenue, which would connect to the Bachman Lake Trail. And then our goal is to put bike paths on both Shorecrest and Denton. And we are working very closely. We cannot expend airport funds outside the airport. I mean, so we cannot connect trails from, say, the Trinity Strand Trail to the Bachman Lake Trail, because that's not our property. But what we're doing is we're working with different stakeholders, like the city park department. We're working with the county. We're working with other private stakeholders and of course the North Central Texas Council of Governments, the COG, to help them, to be a partner with them to create these connected trails. So those efforts are going on, and you'll see some recommendations come out with the COG study.
Okay. Another question. Why won't you acknowledge that the north entrance doesn't reduce traffic, just relocates?
Well, all our studies have shown that all of the 5 shortlisted alternatives actually reduces the number of vehicle miles traveled. So we save over a year millions of miles of vehicle travel. I mean, if someone's driving to the airport, the number of cars may not be reduced, but how long they drive, how long they sit at an intersection, creating pollution, is affected in a positive way by reducing like, both congestion, emissions, as well as the number of miles traveled. So that's one, but we're also doing all these roadway improvements where we're looking at alternate modes of transportation. We're building pedestrian and bicycle paths. We're working with transit authority, with DART, to have more transit options. And actually, I mean, there are plans right now. It's kind of difficult to get from the airport to the Bachman station. It's a circuitous path. You have to come out to Mockingbird and then go up to get there. But if we have an alternate entry, there'll be a more direct path, and we have plans to look at that with TxDOT as well as the City Department of Transportation to make those transit as well as bicycle connections to Bachman Station.
Okay. I also have another question about, will the link be provided for the presentation? And it will be provided on the website, dallas-lovefield.com. We will have a copy of the presentation both in English and Spanish. Our one last question that I see, one of our neighbors said you didn't answer the question regarding time frame to City Council. Do you expect it this fall, this winter, or next spring?
Our plans were to go to council this spring, but due to circumstances beyond our control, because we are actually waiting for COG to finish their study. So I'd heard that they would be finishing it in March, and we haven't seen that happen. But we're hoping to go back to council pretty soon. I just can't give you a definite time because that's something that's not in our control right now.
Okay, one more question. I apologize. If a north entrance is built, what plans will be in place to ensure it is only used for public transit and not passenger cars?
We haven't selected, the council hasn't directed us to select an alternate. Right now, every alternate that we've looked at will have public transit options, because we are making sure that's one of the critical selection criteria that we use, that every shortlisted alternate will be able to accommodate a people mover kind of system. Whether we built one right now or not, it will be capable of adding it in the future. When we do build another entry, that will give us options. We've talked to DART to connect to the north side, especially Bachman Station and other areas. So that would expand DART service. But to answer the question about if we build something that costs so many $100 million to exclusively limit usage to transit would defeat the purpose, because only about 2 to 3% of our population, the maximum 5%, use transit. Our goal is to reduce congestion and enhance air quality and reduce vehicle miles traveled. We don't get it if we don't allow the alternate entry to be used by vehicles. So that's something that's not, we're not considering that such an option.
Okay, one last question concerning the north entrance. How will security concerns be addressed for having a north entrance and cars cross on the taxiways?
This is not uncommon. Lots of airports around the country have this arrangement where you're crossing under taxiways, and there will be measures in place. But security-wise, an alternate entry that is not affected by congestion on Mockingbird if there's something that happens at the Mockingbird and Herb Keller Way intersection. It's very critical, not only for our operations, so passengers and clients can actually have an alternate way to get into the airport, but also for emergency situations where we need to evacuate people. Our first responders have to get there quickly. That alternate entry is critical to be able to have that capacity. So right now we have an intersection. The only entry to our airport is via an intersection that has 80,000 cars. So as it is, it's very crowded without airport traffic, without any incidents. It's so it makes a lot of sense just from operational point of view, security point of view, as well as general reducing traffic congestion point of view to have an alternate entry.
Thank you, Aro. And thank you, Rachel. Everyone, I want to make sure that you understand that all of the questions and answers that we have responded to in the chat, we will make sure to post them on our website, and they will be in place later this week. In addition, we received 9 questions prior to tonight's meeting. Those answers are included in today's presentation and can be read at your convenience. Some of them we did go ahead and answer during our presentation, but I wanted to make sure that you know that we did receive questions prior to tonight. And with that, we're going to close out our presentation for tonight by letting you know our director is Mark Diebner. He can be contacted at 214-670-6077 or here at our offices at 7555 Lemon Avenue, or via email at the emails that are included in the presentation that we mentioned earlier. And with that, I will say thank you for participating in tonight's presentation. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do to assist you. We are available to do so at any time. Good night, everyone.